Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a paradox that honestly probably feels familiar to a lot of you. It's this feeling that you know something, you've studied it, you get it, but when the pressure's on, poof, it's gone. We're going to figure out why that happens. And the source material we're looking at today just nails this problem with this one quote. I mean, just picture it. This student, right, they've put in the hours, they've studied for weeks, they know this stuff cold. But then the test hits the desk, the clock starts ticking, and nothing. Their mind just goes completely blank. All that knowledge is in there somewhere, but it's like it's locked behind a steel door.
So what gives? Why does this happen? Well, the argument we're digging into today offers a pretty bold explanation. It says we're mixing up two totally different ideas. We think we can learn strength, like a fact. But this source says, nope, that's not how it works. Strength has to be trained.
And that whole experience, that freezing up, it brings up the big question at the heart of all this. It totally challenges this idea we all kind of have, right? That if you just pile up enough knowledge, you'll automatically know what to do. But as anyone who's ever blanked on a test knows, it's just not that simple. Okay, so to get to the bottom of this, the source first asks us to look at how we usually think about our own minds, and it introduces this metaphor, one that might hit a little too close to home. And here it is, the knowledge warehouse. Think about it. We spend years just packing our brains full of stuff. Theories, formulas, random facts, just hoping it'll be there when we need to pull it out. But here's the catch with a warehouse. When things get stressful, when the pressure's on, the doors slam shut. The info is technically in there, sure, but it's completely useless if you can't get to it. And it gets worse. This whole warehouse way of thinking doesn't just fail you on one test, in one meeting. The source argues that over time, it can actually create this really damaging downward spiral. This timeline just lays it all out so clearly. You can see how it happens. First, you start kind of avoiding the tricky stuff. Then that avoidance turns into a belief, a story you tell yourself. Oh, I'm just not going to succeed at this anyway. And before you know it, you're actually afraid of any problem that doesn't have a multiple choice answer. You're afraid of the messiness of the real world. So this is really the heart of the problem, according to the source. That student, their head is full of data, like a massive dusty archive. They've got the information. What they don't have is an instrument, a tool they can actually pick up and use to, build something, solve a problem, create something new, especially when it really, really matters. But, okay, it's not all doom and gloom. The source doesn't just point out the problem and walk away. It actually proposes a huge pivot, a totally different way to think about, thinking. And they make this shift crystal clear with this one simple line. It's a total break from that old warehouse model. It's basically a declaration of independence, saying, hey, there's another way, and we've got to take it. And here's that pivot, laid out side by side. It's so clear. On one side, you've got the old way, knowledge as a warehouse, an archive, just passive storage. But on the other side, you've got this new idea, thinking as a muscle, as an instrument. It's all about active reaction. See the difference? The goal isn't just to store stuff anymore. The goal is to build a real, usable skill. Which brings us to this awesome new metaphor, the thinking muscle. In this model, your mind isn't some quiet library where you go to reflect. No, it's a dynamic system that's built for action. And the real test of success? It's not what you can remember when you're sitting alone in a quiet room. It's all about how you react when you're in the thick of it, in the heat of the moment. Okay, so if thinking is a muscle, how in the world do you train it? The source is really clear on this. It's not about cramming more facts or reading more theory. Nope, it's a completely different kind of practice. The process they lay out is basically 3 steps. First, you have to treat your brain like you'd treat a muscle at the gym. You train it with purpose, with consistency. Second, and this is key, you have to practice taking action when it's scary, when you're uncomfortable. You can't just practice when it's easy. And third, the whole point of all this is to turn thinking into a reflex, a gut reaction, not some slow, careful reflection. You see how this just flips the whole goal of learning on its head? It's not about understanding the topic just to pass a test anymore. It's about fundamentally changing who you are and what you're capable of. It's about building what the source calls strength in your head. So what's the payoff? Where does this all lead? What does a person with a really well-trained thinking muscle actually look and feel like? Well, the transformation is huge. You go from being that panicked student we talked about at the beginning, the one who just freezes up, paralyzed, to being someone who doesn't just get through the pressure, they actually thrive in it. You become the person who can think on their feet, stay clear-headed, and actually win when it counts. And that leaves us with a really big question to chew on, doesn't it? It's one that forces us to look around, at our schools, at our jobs, even at how we try to learn things on our own. And we have to ask ourselves, are we just building bigger and bigger knowledge archives, or are we actually training our thinking muscles?